Hello YouTube and Patreon. This is Nathan P. Butler, and this is a project update for the month of November of 2018. Now, you'll probably notice here right off the bat that it looks a little different this time around. This has been a month of technical issues, technical upgrades, more technical issues, and so on and so on. So, I'll talk about them at the end of the episode for those who care. But suffice to say, I am right now recording on my iPad while trying to view it on a MacBook to see what the hell it is I'm recording because I'm using the back-facing camera so I don't have to rotate it, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, some technological changes have happened here just in the last month or so on my end, but that has allowed certain projects to finally come back that hadn't been out there for a little while. So, let's kick this off, try to make it short, but let's kick this off with taking a look at who our Patreon supporters are at this point for the channel and elsewhere. That is, of course, over at patreon.com/NathanPButler. We, of course, have three tiers, the $1, $5, and $10 tier. $1 gets you a thanks at the end of an episode like this one, these project updates, and also a thanks in the eventual second edition of my A Saga on Home Video, A Fan's Guide to U.S. Star Wars Home Video Releases book, which will come out here in probably a couple of years once Baby Cade lets me actually frickin' work on it at all. Then, of course, we have that $5 tier, which is the one that gets you access as one of the denizens of the Butlerverse, the Travelers being the $1, Denizens being the $5. The denizens of the Butlerverse get access to at least 2 new audio commentaries every month for, right now, episodes of The Clone Wars. We had 2 released this month. I will eventually be adding some more, hopefully a few of those little, like, oddball ones for Forces of Destiny and things like that, like I've done a couple times before. Then, of course, above that, we have the $10 tier, which adds on that exclusive monthly Q&A, which has recently included my initial thoughts on Star Wars Resistance, which is, you know, kind of a nice thing to get for those folks. Those are the nobility of the Butlerverse, as it's called. So, a big thanks to all the Patreon supporters, starting with the Travelers through the Butlerverse, which include Ben P. Stein, Thomas Myers, Martin Dahl, Austin Pierce, Jeremiah Mustard, and S.W. Chris. Then, of course, my thanks also to the denizens of the Butlerverse, including Jeff Ellis, Joey Zitzman, Stephen M., Sam Howard, Chris Morgan, Robert Medina, Bobby Craig, and Jason Hunt. And then, of course, also then a big thanks to the nobility of the Butlerverse, who include Gary Sherwood, David Ray, Benjamin Handelman, Andrew Bettis, Brian Snook, and Aaron Melzak, who has been a big help, by the way, from a technical side as I've been getting used to a new system here. So, thanks to all of you. Again, if you want to support me through Patreon, it is patreon.com/NathanPButler. On Patreon, we of course had some new releases for this month. Our 2 audio commentaries this month for the Clone Wars ended a trilogy and then gave us a standalone episode with Children of the Force and Bounty Hunters, so we're a bit of a ways along into the series now. Still not quite to the time jump yet, where I think the series gets quite a bit better, but, you know, moving right along there. And of course, we had our exclusive Q&A for the nobility of the Butlerverse, which dealt with the question of why I went into teaching, of all things. Now, as far as new podcasts, I have not recorded any new episodes of Cloud City Casino with Michael Morris yet, since the baby's birth and, you know, us kind of going on hiatus in that sense. He did put up a new episode with a guest, though, so if you are following that show, you'll be able to check that out. You just won't hear me on the episode, of course. But I did get a chance to finally record for Star Wars Beyond the Films with Mark Herleman. So, over at StarWarsReport.com, you will find Star Wars Beyond the Films episode number 237, which came out in November. It is our first new episode since July. But it's our episode that takes a look at, after some oddball stuff at the beginning, Thrawn alliances. As of right now, by the way, we do have an episode that is coming up that we'll record soon that's going to be all about your input, your feedback as listeners. So if you happen to listen to Star Wars Beyond the Films and you have some thoughts or questions you want to toss in there for sort of a feedback/input type of episode, feel free to email us at swbeyondfilms@StarWarsFanWorks.com, which I'm sure you've already heard previously in those episodes. But, you know, just use that email address that's normally there for the show and send along whatever it might be. We hope to include those sometime in the near future. But yes, Star Wars Beyond the Films is back, and that is thanks to a technical thing, which I guess we can deal with now instead of the bigger stuff later on. Basically, editing on Star Wars Beyond the Films became a ridiculous chore, and I was the one having to basically do it. Mark didn't have time to do it. Our previous editor had moved on to other projects, so it was back to me editing it. And because all of our Skype recording software was screwed because of some change that happened, I guess, with Skype that affected all of them on one of the previous versions of Skype, you couldn't actually record correctly. Because basically, if you were the one running the call and you were recording on your end, then basically you would catch all the oddball sounds going on around you even when you were muted, even though you get the other side only when they were unmuted. So basically, you know, if Mark's talking and I'm muted and then I belch or something, congratulations, it's on the recording. Fun. So what we had to do is basically record each of our sides separately in Audacity. Then I had to edit them together, which would sound like it'd be easy. You could just stick them together, line them up once, and be done. But oh no, not nearly as easy, because then you have to go in and manually cut out certain chunks so the background noise isn't there. It was just a complete pain in the ass. It basically turned editing a show that was, say, 1 hour, which normally in editing would be about a 2 to 3 hour thing, maybe at most. It turned that into about a 5-hour excursion into asininity, if that is a word. So suffice to say, it was getting to be very difficult to actually do that, and we're looking for an editor. I think we may have actually found somebody who will possibly still pick that up, but Skype has saved the day. The newest version of Skype actually allows you to record natively in Skype. It records it as a video, so we have to go in and then pull the audio off of that, but it has both of us together. When we mute, it actually effing mutes us like those other programs couldn't do for some reason anymore. So I was able to sort of edit through episode number 237 in a fairly short amount of time, given that it had been a while since I'd edited anything, and put it up there. The turnaround was lightning quick this time. So hopefully that means that Star Wars Beyond the Films will be able to put out more episodes in the near future. I basically am recording them here in my office now when my wife plays Saint and is looking after Cade in the other room so that we can record. So hopefully you'll see more of those again soon. And Cloud City Casino also, I just haven't had a chance to get with Michael to record again yet. The rest of the content this month, since the last update on October 26th or so, came via YouTube, and of course, there's a lot of it this month. Finally, which is nice, though, again, technical issues standing in the way and whatnot for a few days there. So, let's see, just in order, the project update was on October 26th. I'm looking down at the computer to make sure I don't miss any here. Also on October 26th, I released a new episode of From the Star Wars Home Video Library. It was about The Last Jedi Blue Fans Steelbook one-click set. That is this bad boy back here as my chair creaks and everything. The very next day, I put out an episode, which is 179, for the Rebels Season 2 UK Steelbook, and then episode 180 the following day on the 28th, which is the Japanese The Clone Wars Complete Season 1 tin set on Blu-ray from Japan. That's actually up there on the shelf as well. Then a brief break from the Star Wars Home Video Library for a couple of items for Star Wars Legion. We had a content overview for the E-Web Heavy Blaster Team Unit expansion and the 1.4 FD Laser Cannon Team Unit expansion as well, along with briefly jumping over to Imperial Assault to take a look at the Lothal Wastes skirmish map that just became available. Then, of course, it was back from the Star Wars Home Video Library for several episodes, including an episode on the Spaceballs 2018 Walmart exclusive Blu-ray release, the Attack of the Clones VHS electronic press kit, the Lego Star Wars Droid Tales cards, actually finally having acquired the 3 sets of 3 to show you all of them all at once. The Villains DVD from the Heroes and Villains DVD set from the newspapers over in the UK, just giving you a chance to see what the Villains packaging looked like because we hadn't looked at that before. Also the Phantom Menace Malaysian VCD outer packaging, which again we hadn't been able to look at before. And an interesting oddball in episode 184, the Ewok Adventures and Willow together in a double feature movie pack from Spain, which was definitely an odd one. And on the same day as several of those episodes, you may recall that I had talked about how I had recorded an episode of Nate's favorite deck building games about legendary Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but I hadn't edited it. Turns out that was sort of the catalyst for a lot of these technological changes that have happened. But I finally got that episode out, thank God, on November 10th, so that was out there as an episode of Nate's favorite deck building games. Then it was back into From the Star Wars Home Video Library with a look at the Special Edition Trilogy Laserdisc set from the UK, the individual Clone Wars DVDs from the UK, where they put out seasons 1 and 2 as 4 volumes each, and the Australian 30th Anniversary Original Trilogy DVD set in its collector's tin. Then it was back to Nate's favorite deck building games for part 13 of the Legendary Marvel episodes. That's the one that actually looked at the Marvel Studios, the first 10 years Phase 1 base game. Then for part 13, coincidentally enough, of the DC deck building game series, or a sub-series of Nate's favorite deck building games, to take a look at the Green Lantern versus Sinestro Rivals set. And then part 14 of the DC deck building game as we took a look at Crisis Expansion 4. And then just feeling kind of energized to get some more content in, some quick bursts of content, I put up a question collection video basically on November 22nd, basically saying, hey, if you got some questions, post them, and I'll start doing quick little videos to answer maybe 1 or 2 questions at a time instead of a big Q&A video, so maybe we can do those more often. Thought that might be a fun thing to do. Then November 23rd, back into looking at games again, only this time not a deck building game. I took a look at the Han Solo card game that came out to coincide with the film, both an overview of the contents and a bit about how to actually play that game if you might be interested in it. I also put out really one of the only book reviews on the channel, which is a review of Justin Gary's book, Think Like a Game Designer, which was appropriate given how many times I'd looked at games created by Justin Gary in Nate's favorite deck building games. And then finally, the last episode to be released before recording this on November 26th was on November 24th, the first part of a Nate's favorite deck building game sub-series to look at Shards of Infinity, which is another of those Justin Gary games, actually, in the lead-up, of course, to its first expansion, Relics of the Future, coming out, I believe it is this month or next month. I think it's been delayed just a little bit. So, lots of new content, a big push from the Star Wars Home Video Library to clear out a bunch of stuff, but also a big push clear out a bunch of stuff that was sort of a backlog for Nate's favorite deck building games as well, along with a few little oddball items along the way. So it has been a much more jam-packed month than the previous couple had been, since I'm finally getting a chance to really get back into things and have a way to get around some of the technical issues that I ran into. So for those of you who are interested in just the, hey, what's new side of things, that's it. Lots of YouTube stuff, an episode of Star Wars Beyond the Films, the Patreon stuff, and otherwise, you know, work continues sort of in the background when I get the chance to do some things for A Saga on Home Video's next edition. Haven't really had a chance to do much with that in the last month. And of course, the Star Wars Timeline Gold is over, so nothing new there to report. So if that's all you were worried about, just what the actual project update was, thank you for watching, and I will catch you later on. If you are someone who wants to know what the technical issues were and why this looks so different, now would be the time to get into that, I guess. So I've been running into issues with the laptop that I use. It's a PC laptop running on Windows 10. I've had it for a while, and I was running into a few little technical things every now and then on it, but nothing that was too crazy. And my thing was that I wanted to have a fairly simplistic, easy way to edit the videos that I do. I mean, I don't really need a whole lot, right? I just need to be able to have some kind of nifty-looking title at the beginning, some credit stuff at the end, and then some little subtitles or something to be able to tell you what we're looking at. I mean, it's not like rocket science. So I've been using Movie Maker, and I already had some issues getting the right version of Movie Maker that I needed onto that PC because of the discontinuing of Movie Maker, and then the later version of Movie Maker getting discontinued also, etc., etc. I think it was Windows Movie Maker and Windows Live Movie Maker, I think, were the two different versions. But I was still using it. And it was working well enough. I could record with my Logitech C920 webcam directly on the computer, then using the Logitech program that came with it, and then bring those over into Movie Maker, put together the videos, spit them out. That's the stuff where you see me sitting here. Then I would take my iPad and go in and record the videos of things like Nate's favorite deck building games or the Fantasy Flight Games product overviews and things like that, and then transfer those to the PC, edit them in Movie Maker if necessary, and put them out. And if they didn't need anything like that, if it was just sort of a one-take thing that didn't need credits and stuff like a lot of my little product reviews for Fantasy Flight Game stuff, just upload it straight from the iPad. Worked great. And then a couple of things happened. One, something about one of the recent updates, I'm assuming to iOS, has made it so that the videos weren't transferring properly. I could record them on the iPad, and then when the time came to actually transfer them to the PC, the files, as they were transferred, you get about halfway done, and the transfer would die every single effing time. I couldn't get a single file to transfer over correctly. None. So I looked it up, And one of the things people were suggesting was, well, have it set to a keep original file instead of doing something that's like more efficient or whatever it is that it does. Just set keep original file and then try it. And it worked. The files actually transferred over. Yes, sweet, it's going to work. Then I start trying to edit in Movie Maker. And I would insert a file and try to do something, and it would freeze or crash. Every effing time. So basically the way I would have to edit, if this even worked, because sometimes it didn't, would be to insert a video, save it, exit. Open it, make one change, save it, exit. Open it, make another single change, save it, exit, go back into it. Every single time, which is ridiculous, right? Eventually I found a workaround for that somewhat, which was that once I got them onto the computer, by using that keep original files thing on the iPad, I bought a $30 conversion program that converts basically anything into anything just about. I'm pretty sure that you could tell it to convert, you know, something you've captured off a website into peanut butter or something. Sorry, got peanut butter on the brain. Not one of the things you want to think about whenever you've got a baby, because their crap looks like a lot of stuff you'll never want to eat again. I know now why they call it gray poop on mustard. Anyway, but I had a converter that would let me convert the files into a different format, which could then be accepted into Movie Maker. That's how I finally got the Nate's Favorite Deck Building Games thing for Legendary Buffy finally out. And I apologize if I'm looking a little odd here in where I'm looking. The fact that I've got the iPad here and I can't see myself on it, I've got to look at the little camera eye. It's just, it's a little disorienting, but I thought that'd be less disorienting than turning it around and having to look at one side of the camera, even though my picture is right next to it and always looking off to the side like this. Anyway, so that worked well enough as a workaround for now, but it was still frustrating. I was still like, you know what, maybe it's time for another computer. I've been having issues, you know, little issues here and there with this one anyway, at which point the space bar broke. And this was a space bar breaking in a way that I should have been able to fix. I've done this plenty of times before and dealt with it as best I could. Still wouldn't work. No matter what I did, the first time you hit the space bar now, it sticks, and you have to take it off to fix it. The solution to that, just get a freaking external keyboard. But at this point, with the external drive and the external keyboard, the external optical drive, etc., basically that laptop is now a desktop. It might as well be. And it's a pain in the butt to move it between rooms to record, because I don't usually have it in my office. What that led to then was this question of, okay, well then, now what? Are you going to get a new computer? And I toyed around with the idea of picking up a MacBook for a while, even though they're a little expensive, because my concern was that Windows Movie Maker was running into issues and didn't really get to do much stuff. Even something like iMovie on the MacBook is better, more fully featured, and would work better for me, especially if I'm recording stuff sometimes on iPads and iPhones, than Movie Maker on the PC would be. So I finally broke down, and thank goodness for, you know, financing through Apple.com and Barclaycard. Thank goodness for that. I'll be paying on this thing for a little while, at least until I get extra pay from extra students or summer school or something like that, and wipe it out. But I wound up dropping the cash to get a MacBook. I got the newer MacBook Air with 16 gigs of RAM. I went with a 256 gig hard drive. Got an external 2 terabyte drive because I need it for the backups and things like that. And a couple of adapters because, of course, the new ones only use those Thunderbolts. So if you want to use anything that's regular USB, congratulations, you need to buy a frickin' adapter for it. And it worked fantastic. As soon as I got it, I've used a MacBook for work plenty, so getting a chance to use it for this stuff, great. Love working in iMovie. It's so much better than working in Movie Maker. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. And then I sat down to try to record something like this. And I grabbed the MacBook itself. Of course, the MacBook, for some reason, they're like, here, it's the new MacBook Air. Aren't these awesome? By the way, the camera that's built into it, it's the same shitty one that it's been for a while. We're not going to actually upgrade that to be good like the ones in the new iPads or iPhones, because that would be too intelligent. So unless I want to record in kind of crappy 720p, I can't record with the regular webcam that is built into the MacBook. But it's okay, I've got my Logitech webcam. plug that sucker in, go to QuickTime Player, which is what it natively uses to record things, go in there and click record, get about 30 seconds into saying something, and it crashes every single time. Seeing a pattern here. Nothing I have done has been able to actually get that webcam to work correctly for recording. I can use it for anything else. The moment I start recording, it crashes in QuickTime. I did put the Open Broadcasting software on there, the what's it, OBS project, on there. I could record with that, but as soon as I went beyond maybe 30 seconds or so, the audio and video sync became terrible. So yeah. So at this point, at least for now, as I'm looking for a workaround, I am recording these types of videos with my iPad, or maybe at some point I'll do them with my iPhone. That changes the lighting concerns in the room. I'll have to see what I can do within Movie Maker, or not Movie Maker, in iMovie. And it does change how much of the background you can see. It changes where the camera is positioned. I actually had to go out and buy a little one of those mini crawler leg kind of tripod things that I can sit here actually on the desk to put the iPad on, because my tripod that I use for Nate's Favorite Deck Building Games isn't tall enough. It's really just been kind of a frustrating month technologically. The things that I thought would be so much easier on the MacBook, it's like the stuff that it was having trouble with on the PC, the MacBook, in conjunction with the other devices, friggin' rocks at. When it comes to the basic stuff of just sitting here with a friggin' camera pointing at me, as I had done for so long with the PC, that apparently is just too damn much for the MacBook to be able to figure out, or for me to be able to figure out with the MacBook more specifically. So I'm still working on the technological kinks, but I realized we were getting close to the end of the month. I wanted to make sure that this video got done, got out, so that you had your project update, so our Patreon folks had the chance to see their names in the credits and whatnot. And so I can at least get a feel for how this would or won't work as I continue working on exactly how I'm going to record these style of videos. I may just wind up having to continue lugging that old laptop back and forth for this type of video and use the other stuff otherwise, maybe even edit on this by transferring them off the PC. I don't know yet. But suffice to say, those are the issues that we're run into. So different setup here. Much of the things you're going to see have slightly different titles and whatnot because it'll be being done in the MacBook Air. But beyond that, I'm not sure how this will affect the videos themselves. Thankfully, I've got a little bit before I'll be recording any more from the Star Wars Home Video Library, probably here within the next couple of weeks, which gives me a chance to play around and find what's going to work for the best. So for those who wanted the technical side, there you go. Yeah, and that's why it looks different. But I guess it's closer to me now, a little, or looks like it. I guess you just can't see as much of the cool collection behind me, which is kind of the point of it being behind me. In any event, thank you all for your interest. I'll be back with, of course, more content over the span of the next month, but expect the next of these project updates near the end of December. Again, thank you for your interest. The Patreon is patreon.com/NathanPButler. I'll see you next month.